you mad? Why are you using generator when there is light? I will throw you out of this compound.
Try it. The day you touch my property or lock my room, that is the day I will sue you.
What would you do if your landlord made your life a living hell? In this story, this landlord increased rent every month, threatened tenants with quit notices, and everybody feared him. But one day, he crossed the wrong person, and what happened next shocked the entire neighborhood. Let's watch this interesting story.
If you have ever lived in Lagos, then you know there are some landlords who behave like they own not only the house, but also the lives of the people living inside it. Some landlords are strict, some are wicked. But Mr. Trouble was something else entirely. People said he could make a grown man cry over rent. They said he once disconnected a widow's water because she was owing 1 month's balance. They said he had slapped a tenant for coming home late. They said if Mr. Trouble hated you, your life in the compound would become a living hell. That was why everybody feared him. This house was so fine that many people wanted to live in. The building was neat, freshly painted, and cheaper than most houses in the area. That was why tenants rushed to rent rooms there without knowing the kind of landlord waiting for them. The landlord's real name was Mr. Balogun, but everybody called him Mr. Trouble behind his back because he always looked for trouble. Mr. Trouble was a short, chubby man in his late 50s with a loud voice and an angry face. His wife took their 3 children and left him alone. Every morning, he walked around the compound looking for somebody to insult. If children were
You
playing,
people think
he
this
would
is your
shout.
father's house?
If tenants fetched too
Good
much
morning,
water,
Mr.
he would
Trouble.
complain.
If you
somebody
cannot
greeted
obey
him
my rules,
casually,
back
he
out.
would become angry. You people think this is your father's house? He would shout. If you cannot obey my rules, pack out. He increased rent any time he wanted. He created useless charges every month. 1 month, he
This
collected
month,
money for
everybody will pay
compound
for
piece.
compound piece.
Another month, he
What
collected
compound
money
piece?
for gate
And
repair,
everybody will
even
pay
though
for
the
gate
gate was
repair.
still broken.
But the gate is
There was a
still
widow in the
broken.
compound named Mama Chisom, who lived with her 3 children. She sold roasted corn by the roadside. 1 month, one of her children became sick and she could not complete her rent. Mr. Trouble disconnected the water to her room. Since you cannot pay rent, you should not be using water, he told her. Mama Chisom begged him, but he refused. Her children started fetching water from another street. There was also a mechanic named Jude who lived at the back of the compound. One night, he came home around 10 p.m. after working late. Mr. Trouble opened the gate angrily.
So you think this is a hotel?
You think this is a hotel? He
This is my
shouted.
house.
Before Jude could explain, Mr. Trouble slapped him in front of everybody. There was also Mama Titi, a petty trader who sold foodstuff in the market. One afternoon, she complained because dirty water always entered her room whenever it rained.
Dirty water always enters my room whenever it rains.
If you do not like it here, pack out.
Mr. Trouble became angry immediately. If you do not like it here, pack out, he shouted. The next day, he locked her room while she was in the market. She returned home to find all her things trapped inside. The entire compound lived in fear. Nobody challenged Mr. Trouble because they believed he had connections with police officers, area boys, and local politicians. One hot afternoon, a house agent arrived with a young woman named Amaka. Amaka had just returned to Nigeria from abroad and wanted a place to stay for a few months before going back. She was a property lawyer, but nobody in the compound knew that. As they stood outside the gate, the agent pulled her aside. "Madam, this landlord does not rent to single women," he said quietly. "If he hears you are not married, he will not give you the room." Amaka frowned. "So, what do I do?" "Find one man to stand as your husband," the agent said. Amaka quickly called her male friend Solomon. When Mr. Trouble saw them together, he smiled. "So, this is your husband?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Amaka replied. Mr. Trouble nodded and gave her the room. As Amaka entered the compound later that evening with her bags, she noticed how quiet everybody became when Mr. Trouble walked past. But unlike the others, Amaka was not afraid. She simply watched him closely. By the end of her first week in the compound, Amaka already understood why everybody looked afraid. Nobody talked loudly, nobody laughed freely. Nobody even sat outside for too long because Mr. Trouble could appear at any moment looking for somebody to embarrass. Every morning, he walked around the compound with a small notebook in his hand, writing down strange charges for tenants. If somebody used too much water, he added extra water fee. If children played too much, he added disturbance fee. If somebody left slippers outside their room, he added dirty compound fee. Amaka had never seen anything like it. One afternoon, she saw him standing in front of Mama Chisom's room again. The widow was kneeling on the ground while her 3 children stood behind her crying. "Please, sir, I told you I will pay the balance next week," Mama Chisom begged. But Mr. Trouble was not listening. "You think I'm joking with you? You are still owing me and you are cooking rice. You have money for rice, but you do not have money for rent." Before anybody could stop him, he kicked the pot of rice in front of the room. The food scattered all over the ground. Mama Chisom's children started crying loudly. That was when Amaka stepped forward.
Why would you do that?
"Why would you do that?" she asked angrily. The entire compound became silent. Nobody had ever spoken to Mr. Trouble like that before.
Next week. Why are you embarrassing her in front of her children?
So because you just entered this compound, you think you can tell me how to run my property?
I am only saying you should treat people like human beings.
Mind your business, or you will soon know the kind of landlord I am.
And you will soon know the kind of tenant I am.
Everybody in the compound looked shocked. That evening, the story spread from flat to flat. Did you hear what Amaka told Mr. Trouble? She is brave. She doesn't know who she is dealing with. The next morning, Amaka woke up and discovered that there was no water running in her bathroom. At first, she thought it was a general problem in the compound. Then, Mama Titi quietly came to her room. "Now only your own pipe he block," she whispered. Amaka frowned. Later that day, Mr. Trouble stood in the middle of the compound and shouted loudly so everybody could hear.
Some people think because they came from abroad, they can come and spoil my compound. Any tenant that wants to be rude can pack out immediately.
A few days later, he added a new charge to her rent book. Compound monitoring fee, 25,000 naira. Amaka looked at the paper and almost laughed.
What is compound monitoring fee?
It means I am monitoring the compound.
And why should I pay for that?
Because I said so.
You are a very funny man.
Do not test me! I can make this compound uncomfortable for you!
But Amaka refused to be afraid. The more he tried to frustrate her, the calmer she became. At night, some of the tenants started visiting her flat secretly. Mama Chisom came first, then Jude, the mechanic, then Mama Titi. They all begged her to stop fighting Mr. Trouble.
That man always wins. He knows police officers, area boys, everybody.
If he wants to deal with you, he will deal with you. He can even throw your things outside one day.
Amaka listened quietly. Then she smiled. Later that night, she called Solomon on the phone and told her everything that had been happening. Solomon was angry. "That landlord does not know who he's dealing with," Amaka laughed. "Exactly," she replied. "He thinks I'm one of these people he can scare. So, what do you want to do?" Amaka sat up on her bed and smiled to herself. "I go show am say I be proper worry girl before I travel go Yankee. This landlord don't finally meet him match." 3 months after Amaka moved into the compound, Mr. Trouble suddenly called for a meeting on a Saturday morning. Everybody came outside reluctantly. Some tenants stood in front of their rooms while others sat quietly on benches. Mr. Trouble stood in the middle of the compound with a brown envelope in his hand and a proud smile on his face.
I have been too soft on all of you. That is why people are becoming stubborn in this compound.
I have prepared a proper tenancy agreement for everybody. From today, anybody who wants to remain in this compound must sign it. He opened the envelope and started sharing papers. The tenants collected them nervously. As Amaka looked through the paper, she almost laughed. The rules were ridiculous. No visitors after 6 p.m., no frying fish, no cooking beans, no pounding yam, no washing clothes on Saturdays, no children playing after 5 p.m., no laughing loudly, no staying in the bathroom for more than 10 minutes, no charging phones overnight, no hanging clothes outside, no sitting outside after evening news, no talking on the phone in front of your flat, no borrowing salt, pepper, or onions from neighbors, no sleepers making noise while walking, nobody will on generator for more than 30 minutes, no football viewing in the compound, no birthdays, no naming ceremonies, no church meetings, no looking at landlord with disrespectful face. Amaka looked up from the paper.
What kind of agreement is this?
It is my house. If you want to stay here, obey my rules.
What if my sister comes from Ibadan in the evening?
No visitors after 6 p.m.
But where will she sleep?
That is your business.
How do people charge their phones if they cannot charge overnight?
If NEPA brings light in the middle of the night, that is your problem.
What if children play after school?
Then control them.
The entire compound became quiet. Then Amaka reached the last page of the agreement. At the bottom, there was another line written in bold letters. It said that any tenant who failed to comply with the rules could be given a quick notice and must leave the compound within 7 days. Amaka laughed softly. Mr. Trouble looked at her. What is funny? This agreement is illegal, Amaka replied. The compound became silent immediately. What did you say? Mr. Trouble asked angrily. I said this agreement is illegal, Amaka repeated. You cannot force people to obey impossible rules after they have already paid rent, and you cannot tell tenants to leave within 7 days because they fried fish or laughed too loudly. Mr. Trouble pointed at her angrily. If you do not like my rules, pack out. You are the one who should pack out of this nonsense, Amaka replied calmly. The tenants gasped. Nobody could believe what they were hearing. Mr. Trouble became so angry that his face turned red. Sign that paper or leave my compound, he shouted. One by one, the tenants slowly signed because they were afraid. Mama Titi signed, Jude signed, Mama Chisom signed, but when Mr. Trouble reached Amaka, she dropped the paper on the table. I will not sign it, she said. Mr. Trouble looked shocked. You think I'm joking with you? No, Amaka replied. I think you are embarrassing yourself. Mr. Trouble stared at her for a few seconds before smiling bitterly. Very soon you will regret this, he said. But Amaka was not afraid. She had seen enough. As everybody returned to their rooms, the tenants started whispering to one another. They said Amaka was brave. They said she was the only person who could stand up to him. Some even said maybe she was the person God sent to save them from Mr. Trouble. That night, Amaka sat in her room reading through the agreement again. Then she smiled to herself. Mr. Trouble thought he was controlling tenants. He did not know he was giving Amaka more evidence against him. After the meeting, everybody expected Amaka to become more careful. Instead, she became worse. She did the exact opposite of everything written in the agreement. If the paper said no visitors after 6 p.m., Amaka started inviting her friends almost every evening. Sometimes Solomon would come with 2 other friends and they would sit outside laughing loudly until night. If the paper said no loud music, Amaka would play old Nigerian songs every Saturday morning while cleaning her room. If it said no pounding yam, Amaka would pound pepper and tomatoes in her mortar even when she was not cooking. If it said no frying fish, Amaka would fry fish so often that the smell would spread through the whole compound. If it said no hanging clothes outside, Amaka would hang her clothes directly in front of her room where everybody could see them. One afternoon, she even borrowed salt from Mama Titi in front of Mr. Trouble just to annoy him. The tenants could not believe it. Amaka, this man will deal with you, Mama Chisom warned her. But Amaka only laughed. One night, NEPA brought light around 1 a.m. Everybody woke up to charge their phones quietly. But Amaka did something else. She brought out her generator, put fuel inside it, and placed it directly under Mr. Trouble's window. Then she switched it on. The loud noise filled the compound immediately. Mr. Trouble rushed outside angrily in his singlet. Are you mad? Why are you using generator when there is light? Amaka folded her arms. The agreement said no charging phones overnight, she replied. So I am using my generator instead. The tenant almost burst into laughter. Mr. Trouble pointed at her angrily. Move this generator now. No, Amaka said calmly. You said your rules must be obeyed. Mr. Trouble became furious and stormed that into his room. Another day, some children were playing football in the compound after 5 p.m. Their mothers quickly tried to stop them because of the agreement. But Amaka came outside and bought biscuits and soft drinks for the children. Continue playing, she told them. If anybody talks, call me. The children shouted happily and continued their game. Mr. Trouble came outside again. Didn't you hear the rule? He shouted. Amaka looked at him. Children should play, she said. You cannot turn this compound into prison. One Sunday evening, Amaka organized a small hangout in front of her room. Solomon came with some of their friends. They brought suya, drinks, and small chops. They laughed, gossiped, and played music. Mr. Trouble came outside looking angry. No visitors after 6 p.m., he shouted. Amaka looked at her wristwatch. It is only 6:05, she replied. Tell these people to leave now. No. Do you want trouble? Amaka stood up immediately. No, but I think you want trouble. Mr. Trouble stepped closer to her. This is my house. And I paid for this room, Amaka replied. You collected my rent before bringing one useless agreement 3 months later. Mr. Trouble pointed at her face. You must obey my rules. Amaka did not move. You scammed everybody in this compound, she said loudly, so that the other tenants could hear. If you had given me this agreement before collecting my money, I would never have paid for this house. The compound became silent. Mr. Trouble looked shocked. You are calling me a scammer? Yes, Amaka replied, because that is what you are doing. You cannot collect rent first, then bring nonsense rules later and start threatening people with quick notice. Mr. Trouble became angry and threatened to throw her out. But Amaka laughed. Try it. The day you touch my property or lock my room, that is the day I will sue you. Mr. Trouble stopped talking. For the first time, he looked uncomfortable. From that day, Amaka became even bolder. She sat outside after evening news. She talked loudly on the phone in front of her room. She laughed loudly whenever she wanted. She even celebrated Solomon's birthday in the compound with cake and music. The other tenants started becoming braver too. Mama Titi started hanging clothes outside again. Jude stopped paying strange charges. Mama Chisom allowed her children to play in the evening. Little by little, Mr. Trouble started losing control. The landlord who used to frighten everybody was now the one becoming frustrated. And deep down, he knew something even worse was coming.